Hello and thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. I'm Maria Moreau. We are monitoring Hurricane Ian as it nears Florida, really already touching the coast at this point. I wanted to continue that coverage by telling you some tips on how to prepare your home in the event of a hurricane. I know our coastal Georgia cities are preparing for that storm surge and the gusts, and officials have already said, lock down those items that you care about and make a plan for this rainfall that we can expect just here in Georgia. Of course, to talk to us about that today is Sari Papazian. I hope I didn't butcher your name. He's, of course, the president of Advanta Cleans Atlanta, and he is here to help us prepare our home in the event of a hurricane. How you doing?
Oh, you did not butcher my name. Close enough, though.
Perfect. I'm glad. I wanted to first talk a little bit about what hurricane damage looks like. I mean, we know we've seen roofs getting blown off and really feelings of hopelessness when we see that damage of homes. But what does that look like for a resident returning to their home after a hurricane has blown through? I mean, what are some of the damage that we can see to a residence?
Well, first of all, I don't want to scare everybody off by letting them thinking that, if the hurricane does come close to Atlanta, all damage is going to be the same. A lot of the damage that we encounter when we go out to these hurricanes, you're going to see some roof damage to start off with. A lot of roof damage. You're going to see broken windows. You might see some trees that have fallen down on any homes. So it's going to be a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of water going into the homes. It just needs one access point, and if there's a lot of rain, which is expected, you're going to see a lot of areas in your house that have been flooded. When we talk about flooding, you don't think that you're going to walk into a house, you're going to have 4 feet of water or 3 feet of water, but that water, once it touches all those areas, it's going to damage them, especially if it's not mitigated in the next 24 to 72 hours.
And something that actually we talked a little bit about before we started up this live stream really was the ways you can prepare your home. So we know about the sandbags, and we know about really locking down those items. But what are some of the first things you need to do as soon as you hear that a hurricane is going to be crossing through your area?
Well, being prepared, having clean water in the house is an absolute necessity. Making sure you have enough food. Some things that you can do as well, you want to make sure you don't have any items laying around in your yard, any chairs, any tables, because those things can be picked up and you're just giving the hurricane ammo so that something can come and hit your home. You want to cover up your windows and doors. You want to check your carbon monoxide detectors, make sure they're working. And then the most important thing for me is to make sure you have a plan for when that hurricane does hit, of where you're going to be in your home if you are staying in. You do not want to be in an area next to a window. You don't want to be on the second floor. You want to be on that first floor in a room, preferably with no windows. If you have to be in an area with windows, make sure you're more in the middle of the room.
And then we talk about boarding up those windows, kind of remaining away. What are the best tools to use for boarding up your home, locking down those items?
I mean, boarding up is key at this point. Most people would not be able to do the boarding up themselves. You can find a handyman. You could get a specialized company that does this. There are multiple ways you can board up your windows and doors, but all of them are going to work as long as you have it sealed, as long as you have it secured, as long as you have those access points closed down. You're going to be able to reduce the amount of damage. It's not going to be zero damage if you're in the area, but you're definitely going to be able to reduce it drastically.
And talk to me a little bit about utilizing sandbags. How does that help specifically for securing your home against a hurricane?
I mean, the weight of the sandbags or any of these items that you have. I mean, you go to the FEMA website and they will be, and that's a great resource, by the way. The FEMA website is a great resource for everybody. And you go through that checklist that they have, and all of those items that they have. I mean, it's going to be hard to do it all from A to Z. We're just being realistic, especially when we're not in the heart of the hurricane. It might come close by to Atlanta or southern Georgia, but going through that checklist and just doing those as many items as you can, especially the top ones, would just be ideal. In case if it's sandbags, closing down those windows and doors, making sure you have the water, making sure you do the necessary steps after the hurricane. It's not enough to just prepare for the hurricane. You also have to prepare for what comes after the hurricane, which is as important as getting prepared for it.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask you, after the hurricane's come and gone, a lot of residents are going to be returning to their home and just dealing with the devastation and the aftermath of a natural disaster like that. Where do they begin? I mean, you're talking about really what's going to be days and possibly months of cleanup and just bringing your home back to normal, but where does that process start? What are some of the first things that a resident should do?
Well, the first thing is thinking about their safety. A lot of people, and we've seen this happen before, a lot of people come back to their home and they're just so overwhelmed with seeing their home damaged. They don't think about their own safety. They want to walk in. The flood water that you're going to see, all that water is going to be contaminated water, especially if it's been there for a few days. That's water that might get you sick, and that's likely to happen. So that water is very contaminated. You don't want to be in touch with that water. You don't want to be breathing any of those the microbial growth that's there, or any of the contaminants. You don't want to come close to a wet electrical device. That's also very important. You want to make sure you know where the power, how to turn off the power to your house. A lot of times you're going to come back and there's not going to be any power. Just looking over your safety first is the most important thing. After that, you want to make sure that you mitigate as soon as possible. And that means basically to get somebody to start doing work on your home. That's easier said than done, because everyone's going to be calling these companies. Everybody's going to be trying to find that contractor, that mitigation company like Advanaclean. We have multiple owners in the Atlanta area. And getting these people out there to start the work is the biggest and the most important step. A lot of people have the idea that I can't start the work until insurance tells me that I'm okay to start the work. That's not the case. Insurance wants you to go ahead and start the mitigation. They want you to start controlling the damage, because this is one of those things where if you leave it, like if you don't start taking care of it, if you don't start mitigating the damage, it's only going to get worse. And if we've been to hurricanes where we go in there after 3-4 days, and the homeowner doesn't want to start working, and then we'll come in there after 10 days later, and the whole scope of work has changed, because there's mold growth. The water has damaged the flooring even more. The water has damaged the floor even more. So now, instead of being able to knock this out in a couple of days, now it's going to be 4 or 5 days of work.
Sorry, I was hoping you could give me the perspective from being one of these companies that are going to see that influx of calls. How are you all preparing for this hurricane? I mean, are you getting ready with your crews? What is the process looking like to make sure you help those residents as much as possible, but also as safely as possible?
Well, the first thing that we do is right now everybody is on call. Everybody is alert to make sure that we prioritize the hurricane and the damage that comes from the hurricane first. So we have a lot of other works at Advanaclean. We do mold, we do air ducts, we do fire restoration. We have all these other services, but right now everything is on hold and we're preparing for the hurricane. Everybody knows right now, they might be working 70, 80-hour weeks. We have all our tools, we have our supplies. We're ready, and then as soon as the hurricane has passed, those calls are going to start coming in, and we are able to dispatch our teams to basically all of Metro Atlanta. We have our equipment, we have our generators, most importantly, we have our certification and our education, knowing that what we are doing, that we're doing everything the right way. We're doing everything based on what's called the IICRC S500, because at Advanaclean, we like to do everything the right way.
We talk about Hurricane Ian, Category 4 hurricane, and I hope that the people that are in those zones that have been asked to evacuate are now in a safe place. But talking about returning to the home, I was hoping you could share a little bit about what homeowners don't think about, when they return to that type of damage. What are some things that they should look out for that maybe isn't commonly considered from your perspective?
I would go back to walking in that house and talk about safety. I think people think that the hurricane damage, once the hurricane has passed, is over. That's not the case. You have a lot of damage that comes after from a hurricane. And again, we go back to the water, we go back to electricity, we go back to the structure is not as solid, and you have these trees that have kind of have fallen down, and now you get some more wind, and now they're gonna end up falling down on a vehicle, on a car, on somebody walking by. And we've seen this. We saw this Hurricane Ida, the last one we went to I'm drawing blanks right now, but Hurricane Ida in close to Louisville, sorry. And those are basically, to me, it's about safety first. So everybody needs to make sure that they're watching from contaminated water and anything involving electrical.
I was hoping you could dish out something that you all shared with me, those do-it-yourself flood cleanup tips. So we know that the first steps are really to contact insurance and make sure that you're documenting that damage. But what are some actions that homeowners can take? Because I know they're going to be eager to want to start the process of getting their home back to normal.
I would say definitely having one of those wet vacs, those vacuums that suck out the water. That would help. The biggest step that everybody can take is kind of taking out that water, extracting that water with any kind of tool that they have. You go to a Home Depot or Lowe's, and you're able to purchase any of those wet vacs. That would be the first step that they can do. They can remove contents from their house that have been damaged by the water instead of leaving them in. They can put them. A lot of cities, what happens is they allow you. They probably won't do that here in Atlanta because it's not going to be as bad. But if you were to go to Florida, they're going to allow you to move all those contents to the side of the street. Move all those items out. Those would be kind of the first two things that come to mind. We're making, preparing for a mitigation company to come and do more of the intense work.
Sorry, thank you so much for your time, and I want to make sure we don't leave anything out. Any final thoughts, especially to our friends down in Florida?
Well, our friends down in Florida, I mean, they're at this point, the hurricane is over there. Everybody coming back to their house, so it's going to be serious and massive devastation over there. Thankfully, here in Atlanta, it's not going to be as bad. But again, I highlight safety first. Make sure you have the numbers of these companies that you're going to call. Make sure you're proactive with your insurance. Make sure that that if something does happen, you're going to get mitigation to start versus having to call them to give you an okay, and then you go ahead and start, and that's going to delay the process by a few days, and that's just going to work against you.
I want to thank you so much for your time, and of course this full interview, as well as more resources to how to secure your home, as well as checking out AdvantaClean, is going to be on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, I'm sorry. I had to end that live stream, so thank you for your patience.
No, you're absolutely good. I can't believe I drew a blank on where Hurricane Ida was.
That's okay. Terrible. No, I was trying to think of it myself too, and I could not find that, so we were in the boat together.
Yeah, it's okay. But thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and of course.
In Louisiana.
I'm sorry?
It was in Louisiana. Hurricane Ida was in Louisiana.
Yes. Yep. That's right. Now we know.
Yeah.
I'm going to send a link to Danielle once I get this web article up if you wanted to watch this interview back. But if there's anything that you wanted to include in that we didn't talk about, please let me know. We'll make sure to get that up.
Sure. Can they have a website link or something like that for us?
Yeah, I'm going to send that to Danielle.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Stay safe out there.
We'll do. Bye-bye.